Hello everyone, greeting to all of you. Last video we discussed or learned about factors affecting rate of water demand, forecasting of population and its methods. Now in this video we will discuss about design period, factors affecting design period and quality of water. So let's start the video. So first we will see design period. So what is design period? The future period for which a provision of water for the future expansion is made in the water supply scheme is called as design period. Means it is in the water supply scheme a provision of water for the future expansion is made. Okay, the design period neither be too short not too long. The design period of 20 to 30 years is fairly good. So now we will see the factors affecting design period. These are the various factors which affect the design period. Now first factor of design period is availability of funds. Means if availability of fund is more, then design period will be less. Then the second factor is life of the water supply scheme pipes and other structural material. This factor is also very important. Design period should not be more than the life of pipes and other structural materials used in water supply scheme. Then the third factor is rate of interest on loans taken for water supply scheme. If the rate of interest on the loans taken to complete the water supply project is less, then it is desired to keep the design period more. Then the next factor is quality of material used. The pipelines and other structural materials have a certain period for which it gives better results. It is better to keep design period nearly equal to the materials used in the water supply scheme. Then the next factor is growth rate of the population. If the economic growth rate of an urban area is fast, then it is desirable to keep the design period short. The increased rate of consumption of water should be kept in view while fixing the design period. And the last factor is quantity of water available. Quantity of water available at the source affect the design period. At the end of higher design period, the required quantity of water may not be available. So, these are the various factors which may affect the design period. Now, we will see the estimating of quantity of water supply scheme required for city or town. The total water demand for a city or town depends upon the various types of demand. Means the total water demand is equals to domestic demand plus public demand plus industrial demand plus institution and commercial demand plus fire demand plus losses and wastage. In short, the total water demand is the summation of all types of water demand. The water demand may vary from town to town depending upon the number of factors. This table shows the distribution of total demand of water for average Indian city. From this table, we can find out the daily water demand. So we will see the table. Here these are the types of water demand, and these are the water demand in liters per capita per day. For domestic used, water demand is 135 liters per capita per day. Then public use, for this water demand is 25. Then for commercial and industrial use, water demand is 40. Then for fire demand, water demand is 15, and for losses and wastage of water, water demand is 55. So total demand of water is 270, that is 270. Okay, from this table, daily water demand is equals to per capita rate multiplied by population of city. So per capita rate is 270. So 270 multiplied by P, capital P, in liters, where per capita rate is equals to 270 and capital P is equals to population. Now we will see the per capita demand. So what is per capita demand? The annual average of daily water needed by one person is called as per capita demand. Per capita demands of city depends upon the various factors and it varies according to the condition of the consumers, number and type of commercial and institutional places in city. So per capita demand is expressed in liters per capita per day. So per capita demand is equals to capital Q divided by capital P into 365. So this is in liters per capita per day, where capital Q is equals to total quantity of water required for a city per year in liters, and capital P is equals to population of city or town. Now we will see the quality of water. So what is quality of water? Water being a good carrier of disease germs should be well treated so as to avoid the dangerous waterborne disease. To avoid the dangerous waterborne diseases, water must be a good quality. Then second point is, therefore impure water should be treated into pure water which is potable 1. Means potable water means it should be drinkable. Then the next point is, the treated water controls the various waterborne diseases and reduces costly repairs of various machines. Means the treated water controls the various waterborne diseases and also reduce cost for repairs of various machines. And then the water supplied to the consumer should be pure. The water supplied to the consumer should be pure. And the last point is, domestic water should be free from impurities and bacteria. Now we will discuss about potable water and pure water. So first we see pure water. What is pure water? Absolutely pure water is that water which contains only 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen by volume and nothing else. It is just simple H2O means pure water, that is 2 hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. The rainwater is an example of pure water. Such water is not available in nature. Then what is potable water? Wholesome water is that water which is not chemically pure but does not contain anything harmful to human health. The water which is suitable for drinking purpose is called as potable water. Potable water is also called as wholesome water. Now let's see the requirements of potable water. The following are the requirements of potable water. First requirement is, it should be free from disease causing bacteria. Means water should be free from all types of bacteria which causes diseases. Then second point is it should be colorless and sparkling. Water should be clean and sparkling. Then third point is it should be tasty, free from odor and cool. Means water should be tasty and free from odor and it cool. Then next point is it should not corrode the pipes. Then next point is it should be free from all objectionable matters. Then next point is it should have dissolved oxygen and free carbonic acid so that it remains fresh. Here dissolved oxygen, as we require oxygen for our survival. Similarly, aquatic animals also require dissolved oxygen. The meaning of dissolved oxygen is oxygen which is in the water which is useful for the aquatic animals. Then the last requirement is it should be free from radioactive matter, phenolic compounds, iodine, fluoride and chlorine. Here radioactive matter like uranium. These radioactive materials are not suitable for health. They are very dangerous for us. So water should be free from all radioactive material. So these are the various requirements of potable water. Now we will discuss the impurities in water. There are three common impurities which present in water, that is suspended impurities, then second one is colloidal impurities, then third one is dissolved impurities. So first we will see suspended impurities. What is suspended impurities? These impurities are in the form of solid particles that are large enough to be removed by filtration or settling. That impurities which settle down at the bottom are known as suspended impurities. Due to gravitational force and weight of the particles, so these impurities are settled down. These impurities are very easily removed by sedimentation process or by filtration process. Then second point is all these impurities are microscopic and cause turbidity in the water. Microscopic means impurities which are visible only with a microscope, and turbidity means water loses its transparency due to presence of suspended particles, reduction in water clarity. Then second impurity is colloidal impurity. These impurities include clay, algae, fungi, organic matters, inorganic matters and minerals. These impurities are very finer particles and size of these particles are very less than suspended particles, and in which in these impurities it include clay, algae, fungi, organic matters and inorganic matters. Then second point is these impurities are in the form of very finely divided dispersion of particles in water. Due to very finer particles, they cannot remove by simple process of sedimentation. Sedimentation includes sediment of heavy particles due to their own weight, and they settle down at the bottom of sedimentation tank. But here finer particles don't have their own weight, hence they cannot removed by the ordinary process of sedimentation. These colloidal impurities can be removed by adding some chemicals, and those chemicals are known as coagulants. Then third point is these impurities are so small that these cannot be removed by ordinary filters and are not visible to the naked eye. These particles are very small, so are not visible to the naked eye. Okay, so these are the colloidal impurities. Then the third impurities is dissolved impurities. These are dissolved in water when it moves over the rocks, soil, etc. They may contain organic compounds, inorganic salts and gases. Then second point is concentration of these impurities is expressed in ppm. Here ppm means parts per million. These are dissolved in water means when the flow of water takes place. Due to flow of water on the rocks, this flow of water dissolve the rocks, hence they are known as dissolved impurities. Then the next point we will discuss is need for analysis of water. The groundwater is free from organic impurities and suspended impurities and requires treatment, but it should be usually chlorinated before using. Because groundwater percolates to the various strata, is free from organic impurities and suspended impurities, but when it passes to the several layers, some salts and minerals may get dissolved into the water, and hence it should be usually chlorinated before using. Then second point is water obtained from shallow wells should be properly treated. The examination of water is done in the waterworks laboratory. It is necessary to examine the quality of water. Wells are open, hence the impurities present in well water are more, and hence the water which comes from well, it is necessary to examine the quality of water in laboratory. Then the next point is advantages of analysis of water. The main advantages are to remove pathogenic bacteria. Means pathogenic bacteria is which can affect human health, or we can say which are harmful to the human health, are known as pathogenic bacteria. Then the second main advantage is to outline the purification process. Then third advantage is to remove dissolved impurities like mineral salts. Then next advantage is to make water safe for domestic as well as industrial use. Then to classify the quality of raw water by analyzing various impurities present, which helps in selection of raw water source. To classify the quality of raw water means, for example, if bacteria is present, we need to use disinfection process. And the last point is to protect public health. So these are the various advantages of analysis of water. Hope you like the information given in this video. Up to this, if anybody have any question or problem, then please ask me and complete all assignments which are assigned to you within allotted time. Okay, thank you.